Welcome to Hope for Your Garden. I'm your host, Hope Merkel, and in this series of garden shows, I hope to bring you hope for your garden. I will share with you my knowledge about gardening and show you some tips and tricks to make your garden thrive. My hope is that whether you're an experienced gardener or a beginner, that you will be able to take something from the next half hour that will make your garden come alive. So let's get going.
The following public service announcement is brought to you by San Luis Obispo County Public Access Television.
Have you ever wanted to produce a television show? Now you can learn how. SLO County Public Access is offering classes on just about everything you've ever wanted to know about television production. From cameras and editing to lighting and sound, you'll learn how to use the tools of the trade that you'll need to bring your production to life. At SLO County Public Access, call us at 426-9021 or email us at slocopa@gmail.com.
Hi, and welcome to Hope for Your Garden. I'm Hope Merkel, and I'm going to show you how to plant a fall garden with lots of tips and ideas that you can use year-round. So come on along with me and let's go plant. Los Osos pretty much has sand. There's different areas that have different clays. But for your vegetable garden, regardless of where you're at, you're going to want to add amendment. And depending on how sandy or clay your soil is going to depend on how much you need to add. So the soil is our base for our plant to grow well in. The better your soil, the better the plant's going to do. When you add compost or organic matter, it starts to get the natural microbes that are in the soil growing. The microbes, the natural fungus like mycorrhiza and rhizobia. And these actually, just like the bad nematodes that are out there, they attach to the cell walls of the plant and allow them to grow larger, which allows you to take in more nitrogen, more oxygen, more water, which allows the plant to become a bigger and healthier plant all on its own. This is even before you start feeding the plant. So we want to add as much organic matter back into the soil to get our crop really nice and healthy. There's a lot of great commercial bagged composts that are out there, but you can also make your own compost. You can go to your nearest equine farm or horse stables and collect your own manure, mixing that in. You can go to the nearest coffee shops and get their leftover coffee grounds. That's an excellent one to add. Adding alfalfa pellets, which are like the, you can get them in the hay size little cubes for horses, or the cheaper bunny rabbit food. Those actually help sterilize your soil and add a great cheap compost. So by doing that, you can effectively get your garden going. So today in our little 15 by 15 plot, I'm going to be adding 3 2 cubic foot bags of soil conditioner. My favorite kind is fir mulch, which is a 15% chicken manure base. And I'm going to be adding a bag of steer manure. So now that we've laid out our soil amendment, we're going to go ahead and mix it in. You could use a rototiller, or my favorite little home gardener handy tool is this little handy hula hoe. It's also a great weed cultivator. The little end shakes, it's got a nice kind of sharp little blade, and it actually just works like a little mix master. So I'm just going to go ahead and hula hoe all this soil in, which will help start to get the microbes going. So that they can help feed our little plants. So you just try and level it out and make a nice little bed for our seedlings. We're also going to plant mostly seedlings here. We may do a few starts of broccoli and cauliflower from actual little plants rather than actual seedlings, actual seeds. If we had smell-o-vision, you would smell a very rich smell of different manures, and after years of gardening, knowing what it does to the soil and to the plants, it smells a little healthy. And not cheesecake healthy. Okay, now that I've got that kind of tilled under with my hula hoe, I'm going to hit it with my landscape rake, which is going to kind of pull out any little debris pieces that got mixed up that I don't want in there. And then I'll hit it with the finer tooth rake, which will pull out any other little bits that I don't want in there. You don't want it, when you're going from seed, you don't want to have any big pieces of rock, because the seedlings have a hard time either coming up around them or they grow into it and then they stop growing. So you kind of want to have it as fine and smooth as you can. Not as crucial if you're planting from seedling plants or small little plugs. I'm also going to level the ground, kind of depending on how your water flows. So now, for my back area here, I'm going to be planting peas. In the spring, I'll be doing peas and beans, but during the winter, peas work the best. Here in Los Osos, we can do them year-round. San Luis Obispo, depending on how mild of an area your backyard is, you can usually get away with it. Paso has to wait a little bit. And so I'm going to put up my trellis that those will grow in. You need a nice, sturdy, staked trellis. And you can buy pre-packaged netting. You can also make your own just out of nylon twine. I've seen people use all kinds of different things. Recycled pantyhose. I've seen people use just even ladders or branches staked all together. Then they just twine them up and on those. So there's a whole bunch of different recycled things that you can use, or if you're short on time, you can use just the fresh bought packages of netting. I like to use a staple gun, but you can easily use just small tacks or small nails. So today in the garden, we're going to be planting our fall and winter crops. The fall and winter crops consist of anything that would be leafy green that you would eat, like lettuce, kale, broccoli, cauliflower. We have beets, and then any of your root vegetables. So using my trusty hoe, I'm going to go ahead and make furrows for where I want to plant my seeds. We're facing south right now. The sun's going to come east-west, and so I want to use the sun and the shade to my advantage. My lettuce is going to go on this end. It's going to get the morning sun, a little bit lighter, softer sun, so that it doesn't get bitter and so that it doesn't bolt when it gets hot. My taller things, beets, carrots, kale, will go on this end with my peas down here, so that the items stay tender and grow as fast as they need to. So I'm going to get busy here and make my rows. I'm also on a little bit of a downward slope, and so by planting this way with the slope, the water will run down and kind of penetrate those rows making it easier to water at one end. So I also want to give myself enough room in between the rows to weed the weedlings out, to go ahead and feed, and to just walk into those areas without damaging my plants. I'm also, my furrows right here look pretty deep. They're about 6 inches deep. They're not actually going to be like seeds put in and then filled in with dirt. I'm going to kind of leave them so they almost make a water-wise trough, and it'll help keep the weed seeds from getting more moisture than the seedlings themselves. So right now I'm going to plant my peas along my fencing that I've put up, my trellising, and I'm going to inoculate the soil with some probiotics, the mycorrhiza and the rhizobia, and those are the bacteria and the fungi that attach to the cells and allow the plant to take in more moisture, more water, and become healthier. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this out. It's you can find the microbes in bean and pea inoculants. A lot of the fertilizers now are actually adding the inoculants, the mycorrhiza, the rhizobia. There's about 16 other microbes that they're adding to fertilizers because it makes the plant healthier. And so looking on the packages to see if it says added probiotics. So I'm going to plant my peas seeds about 2 inches apart all the way down the row. You don't want to plant them too close. It doesn't give you a better crop. It's kind of like overplanting. They get less food. They don't do as well. So you want to try and keep them about 2 inches apart. And it's a little bit tedious. You can buy little seed spacers, but it goes along quickly. When you plant your seeds, you only want to have about, on pea seeds, you only want to have 1 inch of soil. That's about that much soil over the top. Any more and they fizzle out and can't get up, and any less they tend to dry out. I'll also be covering these at the end so that the birds don't get them. So after we get these planted, I'm going to put a seed cover on them, and this will help keep the birds from getting the little pea tendrils, which are really, really tender. A lot of people think that their seeds didn't germinate, and it's actually that they got eaten really early in the morning, even sometimes before the sun comes up. And so by covering them, it'll keep the birds out of them, and we'll actually get them up high enough that they won't bother them. It's important to label what you've done so that you kind of know where it is, and so that if you do get weed seeds, you can kind of identify what it is. Instead of, oh, I think that's kale, but I'm not quite sure. So you can either just staple your packages to the board where you're, on your trellises. You can get all kinds of plastic labels, tall ones, short ones. They have just the plain ones that you get with your plants. You can use those, or you can make your own. So right now you can also plant artichokes, and a lot of them come in 6-packs, they come in 4-packs, or you can buy 2-year roots in another about a month and a half, usually during January. They start out little, they get huge. This is actually just half a season, and it's about 2 to 3 feet. It will actually get up to 5 feet. So this is going to take quite a bit of room. So when you purchase them, just kind of look at how big different things get, because this, if I plant this in our little root and lettuce garden, it's going to take over. So this is a little seedling cauliflower plant that we got at the nursery, and it's just barely the little, this is actually root stem that's popping up, and so we want to plant it just to where it's level. You don't want to cover the crown because it'll rot. So I just want to tuck it into the soil to right about there. Little room for watering so that I have my water well. I'm just going to lightly tamp it down into the soil, making sure that that base is covered, the base of the root, not the base of the crown. And I want to space them. These are going to get about a foot, foot and a half around, so I'm going to want to space them and give them plenty of room. And I think I'm going to actually alternate some cabbage and cauliflower. The other plants that I could do in the row with my broccoli or cauliflower and cabbage are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, They're all in the same family. So the one insect that really seems to like the broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower family is aphids. And so if you use an insect repellent early on, you tend not to get them. The aphids will go in and suck on the new growth, which tends to cause damage, cell damage, which tends to make your fruit either less abundant or misshapen. So I'm going to plant the rest of my rows here in seed. And right now, gardening is huge, and it seems that there's lots of hybridized vegetable seeds out there. If you go online, besides at your local nurseries, finding, rainbow colored beets, rainbow colored carrots, purple striped carrots, there's all kinds of things. So if you go online, look up some different seed companies and check out the different varieties that are available, because they're usually pretty inexpensive and really fun to do for the kids. They just get tickled. We just canned purple carrots last weekend, and they're purple on the outside and orange on the inside, and just so much fun. So different seeds are going to have different planting depths, and depending on how big your seed is can depend on how deep it needs to be planted. Usually the bigger the seed, the more soil over the top. When you're planting carrot and lettuce seeds and onion seeds that are really tiny, it just barely takes any soil to go over the top. What I like to do, just to ensure that you don't plant them too deep, is actually to just have your soil loose. You put your seeds on and then just pat them down. By the time you pat them down, water them in, they'll be deep enough. So these are carrot seeds, and you can see how tiny they are. They're just itty bitty, so just packing them kind of into the soil so that they don't move will keep them from washing down too deep. So right now I'm doing the carrot seeds, and it's kind of just a small, thin layer, and if you get them too far, you can thin them out, but it's kind of a pain. So I just try and plant them a little bit farther apart. And then I'm just gonna pack them in. You can also buy seed tapes, which are kind of fun. It's a long piece. It almost looks like paper towel with seeds spaced perfectly apart, and it makes perfect even Martha Stewart lines. So we're planting beets, and the beet greens, you can eat the tops and you can also eat the bottoms. You treat the beet greens kind of like kale or chard, which makes it kind of a really neat thing to try. So there are a few things that you won't be able to get year round. You can get onion sets, garlic, and potato sets in the fall. And right now the garlic's in, we're still waiting for potatoes and onion sets. But garlic fresh from the garden is fabulous. And basically you take your clove, it'll come usually 3 bulbs to a package, and you break them off just as if you were going to go and use them at home. Plant them about 2 inches apart. So you can buy garlic in the store like this, but it's usually been sprayed so that it won't germinate. Even some of your organic ones have been sprayed with a product that will keep them from sprouting, and that will make it so that they won't sprout in your garden and you won't get more garlic. So the garlic we're putting in will be ready in about 3 months. It's going to grow up, and the cloves are going to grow on the bottom underground. I like to use, actually it'll flower before you pull the garlic up, and those flowers are great to use as a chive substitute on potatoes. And they're kind of decorative. You can put them in salads as well. They're totally edible. So you can buy bird netting, and that you lay that down, and that will help keep the birds out as well. I really like to use the seed cover because in our cooler climates and just on a cooler winter day or fall day, The seeds, this will help keep the ground warm, which will make the seeds germinate faster and the plants grow a little faster, and seems to work really, really well. Down my seed cloth cover, and I'm using some landscape kind of vendor board stakes, but you could go ahead and use wood stakes. You could go ahead and just set like a pot of dirt on top of your corners. You could use some heavy rocks, so you don't have to just use stakes. Anything there would really work. You can also use a white, like king size or twin size, an old sheet, and the water will actually go through it. You just want to make sure that you are watering thoroughly, but the water will go through and keep them out. As soon as you see sproutings, you want to take it off. So now that I have my ground protected, my seeds planted, and my soil in, it's time to water. And so I actually like to use this cloth as a buffer to kind of keep the seeds from getting hit too hard by the torrential rains that we're going to give them right now. So I go ahead and leave the cloth on. If you're not going to use the cloth, then you just want to water with a nice soft stream. You don't want to jet blast them. So better almost to water real lightly and then go back over the area after it's kind of soaked in a little bit, so you don't get the floodplain effect where it washes all your seeds down to the bottom of the garden. So now I'm going to go ahead and water in. And after my seeds come up, I'll start watering with compost tea and different fertilizers. You can make compost tea really easily at home, and then you have a great fertilizer that's organic and will just give you incredible vegetables all season long. So compost tea is another great way to fertilize your garden, and it's pretty inexpensive. Compost tea is basically that. It's a tea that's made out of compost. You can use the worm castings, alfalfa meal, humic acid, kelp, and you basically make a tea out of that, and then you dilute that with water and water it on. It does incredible things for your garden. Tea that I've made, it's been sitting for about 3 weeks. There's dinner. So now it's been 2 weeks and we're up in our garden, and we're going to go ahead and take off the seed blanket cover and go ahead and check and see how our babies are doing. Taken off my seed cover cloth, and it's 2 weeks later, and my little lettuce, my carrot seeds, my kale and chard has come up, and beets, and the birds haven't gotten them. And so now that they're a little bit bigger, I'll go ahead and leave that off and just start watering regularly, go through and check my rows for weed seeds. And that's a learning game in its own, of just learning to identify your seeds from the weed seeds. Usually on the back of your seed package, it'll show you what your little seedling will look like. If you're doing carrots, it'll have a little diagram or picture. You can go online, you can look up seedling identification. You could check into different weeds and see what they look like. Or if you're not sure, watch them grow. As they mature a little bit, then you can pull them as soon as you figure out it's not what you want. And so I'll be weeding out my little rows, and then we'll check again next week. Thank you for joining me on Hope for Your Garden. I hope that you have found some useful information, and if you have comments or questions or would like to contact me at hopeforyourgarden@hotmail.com. I would like to thank our sponsors and special thanks to Kristen Mulgroon and the City of San Luis Obispo for providing the equipment and to Charter Communications for making this show possible. Till next time, I'm Hope Merkel. Happy gardening.
Support for Hope for Your Garden is provided in part by E.B. Stone for the life of your garden, Dr. Earth, people and pets safe. Just go organic. Green All fertilizer and specialty products when results count. Kellogg's Garden Products, helping people create beautiful gardens. Los Osos Valley Nursery, a place where gardeners, novice and expert can find good plants, good soil, and helpful advice on sustainable gardening practices. The following public service announcement is brought to you by San Luis Obispo County Public Access Television.
Have you ever wanted to produce a television show? Now you can learn how. SLO County Public Access is offering classes on just about everything you've ever wanted to know about television production. From cameras and editing to lighting and sound, you'll learn how to use the tools of the trade that you'll need to bring your production to life. At SLO County Public Access, call us at 426-9021 or email us at slocopa@gmail.com.
To answer a few questions. These are questions that we received on our Hotmail. The first one is from Jennifer Hunt of Los Osos, and she wanted to know, why is her romaine and other lettuces bitter? Most of the time, bitter lettuce will come from overwatering or hot sun spells. So planting your lettuce in a little bit shadier locations and giving it a little bit more water, and you'll have sweeter tasting lettuce. Another question that we got was, what do I do about those gophers? They seem to be really bad all over the county, and there are a few products that you can use. There's the Gopher Max, which is a pelleted castor oil, and that goes over the top of the soil, and it actually, they don't like it. They don't like the smell. It's an irritant to their skin, so it tends to chase them out. There's also some sonic solar-powered beepers. The beeping sound that you hear in the background is one of those. It vibrates in the ground, gives off a beep, and it'll cover about 7,500 square feet per stake. And so you do that until they're so annoyed that they move on to other places.
The following public service announcement is brought to you by San Luis Obispo County Public Access Television.
Have you ever wanted to produce a television show? Now you can learn how. SLO County Public Access is offering classes on just about everything you've ever wanted to know about television production. From cameras and editing to lighting and sound, you'll learn how to use the tools of the trade that you'll need to bring your production to life. At SLO County Public Access, call us at 426-9021 or email us at slocopa@gmail.com.